morning. Today's speaker is Megan Pugh. She is the author of a book and CD, The Spiral of Healing, and an IFS therapist, a certified somatic experiencing practitioner, licensed professional clinical counselor, and director of the Somatic Art Therapy Trauma Institute in Northern California. She works with individuals, couples, and groups. We're so happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Whoa. Hi. So I'm very wired up here. Is it weird? It's kind of weird. But you can hear me, yeah? Yes. Okay. All right, well, any of you who know me, we're not going to sit. So, except for the gentleman in the back, you can definitely stay sitting for what you'd like to do. You're at choice, actually. But if you'll move your things and just get up with me. So, as a somatic art therapist, which is my primary thing that I do, I actually am an integrationist, so I bring a lot of things together, but I know the importance of the body. So we're going to do something that I call wake and shake, okay? So that's what we're going to do. Just find a part of your body and start moving it. Don't forget your head and your neck and your shoulders and your waist, your whole upper body. And if you can, shake your legs and your feet. Yeah. Okay. Because we forget, that we live in these human bodies, and they actually are our greatest ally. So we want to, I'm supposed to not be over there. Okay. So, yeah. So, you should feel a little buzz, a little warm, huh? Okay, so I'm going to invite you to just do a little scan of your body. And if there's any place calling you as you start at the top of your head and move down, just pay attention to it. Give it a rub, breathe into it, whatever you need to do. And I'm going to invite you to notice any sensations or any feelings that are going on right now, any thoughts, anything like that. Okay? All right, so I just want you to remember a few of those, like 2 or 3 things that you're noticing about yourself right now. So maybe it's a thought passing through, like, why is she having me stand up? Or maybe it's just a feeling of nervousness or excitement or whatever it is, or thinking about something else. Or maybe you have a sore back today, okay? So I just want you to name it for yourself. And then I'm going to invite you to kind of use the space a little bit. We're going to plunge in. I will tell you before we start that this is the experiential part, and then we're going to go into the didactic part. So for all the parts of ourselves that need to have information, you will get it, okay? And there's a sign-up list here that includes, if you want to sign up, I will send you a copy of my PowerPoint, less the art, but the information anyway. And and there's also some things you can take away, handouts of some groups I'm doing, and then I have a book and CD for sale, and I can tell you about that later. Okay, so I'm going to just invite you to spread out and kind of walk around. And you don't have to do this. I want to give you full permission to just be where you are if you want to do it internally, okay, because I know not everybody's an extrovert. So I'd like you to walk around and kind of soft focus so you don't bump into anybody. And as you do it, walk around and call in for yourself a part that is in charge, that's busy, that's that multitasker part of you, that's effective. Just give it a gesture or give it a walk. Notice your breath, notice your head as you're walking around. That kind of agenda-driven part of you that organizes and plans, we all need it, right? We're all therapists, we have schedules, right? So I just want you to feel into that part of yourself. It's a great part. It's a manager of our lives. It's how we get up in the morning. And just kind of notice how you're walking. Notice how it feels to know you have this great asset that you can manage, okay? Just take a moment and feel it. to whatever extent it is that you're feeling it. Okay, then stop and just shake that one out or ask it to move outside of your body a little bit. And now I'm going to invite you to call in that part of yourself or walk that impetuous, distracting part, the part that likes to eat, the impetuous, driven, spontaneous, sensory or motor, that just likes to get on. Yeah, that just likes to shake it up, move it out. Just feel it, okay, to the extent that you can feel it. I know just close your eyes or soft focus. Nobody's looking, okay? And notice now, how is your body? How's the speed of your body? Is it faster? Is it slower? What's your breath doing? How are your eyes looking? Forward or not forward? Okay? Okay, then shake that one off. And now I'd like you to walk as a young, tender, vulnerable part. The kind that feels a little bit like at the effect of life. And just kind of notice how it feels in your body. Is it light or is it heavy? Where are your eyes? What's your breath doing? We have young parts of ourselves that have made false meaning of life's events. At the time they were the best we could do, but we're carrying these burdens around. So just what does it feel like to sort of be at the effect of whatever? Like we've all been at the effect of this storm for 2 days, okay? It can be little, just sense it, okay? Okay, noticing that things are slower, right? Okay, so let's blow that one off. Just move that outside of your body. And now let's invite the critic in, our favorite part. The part that just keeps telling us, doesn't matter what you do, you still have to do more, you still have to get going. Come on, it's time, time's a wasting, right? Feel into that and then move around, give it a gesture. What's that like? Is it this kind of a part, What's it doing to you? Do you have like a guarded part, a vigilant part? See, the truth is we have all of these parts, and this is normal, okay? This is who we are. This is what makes us human, okay? Okay, and then blow that one off. And lastly, I'm going to invite you to walk around in a calm, centered way, whatever that means to you. Maybe feeling some curiosity about this morning, curious about how you're feeling inside, okay? But not really agenda-driven. More like, just noticing, just feeling clear and caring. Kind of that, what we would maybe sometimes call that higher self of us or the witness, okay? Just feel it. And again, notice how your body holds it and what's happening with your breath. All right, and then if you'll find your way to your seat, that would be great. Bless you. Oh, that went off? Okay. So that was the more active part of today, and then we're going to do a little bit of a visualization. So I just want you to get comfortable and take things off your laps. And this is just a little focusing on your heart space, okay? So, did someone say louder? No. Okay. So how do you experience your heart? Just pay attention to it. And, feel free to close your eyes or soft focus or look down, whatever. And if it helps, put your hand there Okay, I just want you to get in touch with, even though it may not be the physical heart we're talking about, but just how you experience your heart in this moment today. It's not in cement, it changes all the time. Okay. But right now, how do you feel your heart? So first, get to know it in a physical way. Like sense it in your chest, sense whether it's got, whether it's heavy, whether it's dense. Just notice it. And then explore the qualities for yourself. Like, what kind of condition is it in for you? You know, is it a heavy heart? Is it a glad heart, a happy heart? Is it a worried heart? And I'd just like you to notice whether or not it's open or closed in this moment. What do you notice? Whether it feels tender or encrusted or calloused or anything in between. I'm just giving you suggestions. Does it feel congested or fluid or flowing? How much space do you experience is in there? In other words, is it contracted, tightly packed, or is there a feeling of spaciousness around your heart? Now, different parts of your heart can feel differently, like maybe the front of your heart is tender while the back is tough, calloused, protected. Or maybe the top of your heart is closed and the bottom is open. There's no right way to do this. This is just sensing in to what you might notice about yourself in this moment. And if you've bumped into any calloused or protected parts, which are normal things to have, invite yourself to get to know them a little bit. Get curious about them. You might even check in and ask what they might be afraid would happen if they allowed your heart to open. Or allowed your heart to be tender or not compacted. Tuning in might teach you about some vulnerable parts that live in your heart. And you don't need to go there. We're just going to learn from the sensations which might be protecting you or protecting those tender parts. Because all of us have experienced pain and betrayal, and so they're living there. And as you notice these sensations, see if you can appreciate how hard they work for you, how hard they work to protect your heart. See if you can appreciate them and see how they respond to your appreciation. You're not really asking them to change. You're just getting to know their fears and sharing your appreciation. You might even propose that one day the protectors can let you get to those vulnerable parts of yourself so you could heal them, and then the protectors might relax a little more. But there's no pressure to go there or do that. It's just really about possibilities. And you might be getting this transmission just through a sense, through a feeling, through a thought. You might be a visual person and see parts of yourself. There's no really right way to do it. There's just paying attention to your heart for a moment, just sensing it. So when you feel fairly complete for now, then bring your focus back outside. But thank your system for letting you in on some information. And also let them know how hard they are working to keep you safe, to keep your heart safe. So I'd like to offer you to just turn to somebody next to you and take really a minute and see if there's anything that you wanted to share about either the walking around or this heart meditation. And just take a moment to just sense something. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but if you'd like to, I just want to give a little space for just sharing if anything came up, you were surprised by anything, you were challenged by anything. Okay? So and then we're going to trade. Okay? So just turn to someone if you want, and I'll tell you when to change. If you haven't changed, change now, please. Okay, if you can complete your sharing. And we'll come back into the group. So I have a little curiosity. I wonder if anybody feels the least bit open to share, if they had anything that surprised them or challenged them or helped, whatever, what they noticed. Yeah?
I hadn't heard of people referring to the various parts, spatially, front and back, top and bottom. And I did notice a difference front to back. And Maggie and I were talking about that she had the exact same sensation, like a harder sensation in the posterior,
Yeah.
which Maggie was kind of insightful that matches how we use our body. If we want to protect ourselves from an attack, we use our back.
Yeah.
While our belly is more vulnerable.
Yeah, that saying that we always say, I've got your back, right? We definitely have, or seeing in the eye, having eyes in the back of your head, right? That often what we don't see coming, we protect, right? So if we can't see behind us, we tend to have more of a protection back there. And, there's kind of an old idea that this is a really great thing, to be open like this. To be like, oh, I should be so open, right? This is so vulnerable, right? There's no way to protect yourself if something comes, right? But, so just do this with me. Take your arms and just tighten everything up. Just tight, 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 tight. Hold everything and just tight. Okay, so this is like the ultimate in protection, but you can't really breathe, right? Okay, and then open wide. This is like open, breath can come in, but there's absolutely no ability to protect yourself, right? Okay, so somewhere between here and here, there's a spot for you, okay? So just start here and then find it. Just move out until you feel like I can feel protected but open at the same time. Okay, just see if you can try that. It's like, how do you find that place? For some people, it's like this. For some people, it might be bigger. You know, for me, it's around here because I can let things in, but if I needed to, I'm there, right? I can protect. And I think that often we have this idea that protectors are wrong, you know, bad, we shouldn't have them. But the reality is that we all need it. It is a part of our human walk here, that we have many aspects of ourselves that are soft and tender and vulnerable and hurt and need protection. Always did need it, right? A lot of these parts came on really early in life, these protector parts, because we were young and at the effect of and helpless, right? And we have lots of clients like that, yeah? Who, you know, walking around feeling really vulnerable, really scared a lot of the time, and using the best capacity and the best resources they can find to hold themselves together, right? To feel protected. And that's usually contractions, because that helps, right? So we have these muscles in our bodies, here and here. And they're part of our body boundary, okay? Because we have another boundary, which is out here. But so just for a moment, just rub here for a second. Rub these muscles and rub these muscles. You know, you can be sitting in a room and just kind of, nobody knows what you're doing. But immediately it brings your attention back to your body, right? So when you feel a little spacey or a little vulnerable, you just, you know, under the table, you're just rubbing and you're sensing your body again. Because we also, if anybody has come from a traumatic background, whether developmental or shock trauma, you know, we don't feel so good about our bodies. Our bodies have betrayed us. Our bodies are scary. But they actually, this is the temple that holds our wisdom and holds the ability to heal anything. And I really mean that. You know, I come from a lot of early trauma, both developmental and shock trauma. And what I mean by developmental trauma is probably translated more into attachment issues, you know, narcissism, the inability to be yourself, the inability to know who you are, what you want, how, you know, how to do this life, how to do anything, right? I have a 27-year-old daughter who I thought I did a really good job raising, and the other day she said to me, you know, Mom, you never let me struggle enough. It's like you can't win, right? You can't win. Yeah. But I thought about that for a while, and I realized that, yeah, in this life, we need a little struggle. You know, like when a baby is learning to crawl, they struggle, right? And the ones of us that scoop them up and have them stand upright, that's for us. That's not for the baby. That's to soothe us because we don't want to listen to this poor little baby crying. But actually, this baby's cry is a good cry. It's like I'm struggling to do something. I'm going to do something. And instead, I want to get down there and say, you can do this. You can do this. I don't need to do this for you. I don't need to pick you up. You can do this. And that, thank you, my daughter, what I learned from her, is like that sometimes it's really helpful to teach and to learn how to manage through the struggle. And, you know, I've been doing this work for about 40 years, my own healing journey, and working with my parts. Art therapy is an amazing modality to be able to connect with parts of yourself, to put them outside of yourself in hard copy, to get distance from them, to be able to unblend from them, and also to get interested in them, to dialogue with them, to see. And I'm going to show you some of those images in a minute. But for me, that's where I started in my healing journey, was through accessing, well, I started by accessing connection. And I think for me, that's what healing is about. It's about how do I connect to myself, to other, to something greater than myself. How do I do that? How do I feel connection, especially if that's been my greatest trauma, is disconnection, right? Is non-attachment, okay? So we have to relearn that, we have to figure out how to do that in this life. And for me, accessing the creative life force that lives inside of all of us is the jet road. It's like the fast and easy way. It's not easy. I take that back. It's the fast way, though, to be able to access your own internal imagery. So the work that I do is an integration of what I've learned and my own healing journey. And that's what I teach in the Spiral of Healing in that book, is everything that I learned and how to reconnect to my own body, how to turn it into an ally. And it's a journey through the body, through the mind, using all the, working with the nervous system, working with our imagery. It's a lot of things. And it involves now my work with somatic experiencing, which is, I'm pretty sure you all know what that is, trauma work, Peter Levine's trauma work, which, was like one of those things when I hit that in the late 90s, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. You mean, I don't, like his whole piece about trauma is that it's not in the event, it's in the nervous system. And when you think about that for a minute, it can move some of the shame pieces away. Because it's like, oh, all human beings are hardwired. If everybody had this experience I had, they would feel how I've been feeling, right? They would feel contracted, they would feel disconnected, they would, all of these things. So that was a wonderful thing I integrated into the art therapy. And then I got to do a little bit more. I have a doctor of ministry from Matt Fox's school, and doesn't exist anymore in that way. It used to be called University of Creation Spirituality. It's now called Wisdom University. But for me, it was a place to land where all of me could show up, because it's not easy. I was given permission. I didn't, I learned to show up. But it was a place where I could step into, and I had full permission to bring all of me forward. And that was like an amazing experience. And then, even though I've known about IFS for probably 15 years, 5 years ago, I had a huge crisis in my world, earth-shattering crisis. And what came out of that crisis, which I really believe in. I believe in these course corrections, and I know that I'm always being gifted when I hit something pretty strong, is that I started training in IFS. First, I got to spend a week with Dick Schwartz, which was in and of itself a gift, and then I started doing the training. And this is, for me, this was the other piece that came in to just sort of bring me home into myself, because this is the most, this kind of work is not the way we've been trained as therapists. This work is non-pathological. It is, it has a deep spiritual basis to it, even though you don't have to believe anything. And it really honors the client's ability to know what they need in order to move to the next place they need to go in their life. I mean, there's a lot I could say about it, but instead I'm going to show you slides, so I don't have to think about it. But for me, all I want to say is that it took me on a journey that let me drop back into myself in a way I hadn't been. Where these little places where I would take parts of myself and throw them over onto somebody else's keeping, or in other situations where I was still at the effect, it allowed me to scoop them up and bring them home. And that feeling of being at home is something I really cherish. So, okay, so any questions yet so far? Or, yeah.
When you say you don't have to believe in anything, isn't it our whole lifetime a belief in something or other? We believe that we're inferior, or we believe, our belief?
Yeah. See, the reason I say that you don't have to believe anything but entertain possibilities is because for me, what's important is the experience that I have, not what I believe, not a thought or not. I mean, I recognize that there are lots of people who really honor certain traditions that have certain tenets that are meant to be believed. And I have no quarrel with that. I want in myself to deepen that into an experience. I want to know what it is I'm believing or thinking. I want to be able to say, like, you know, if somebody came up to me and said, oh, you have beautiful brown eyes, Megan, I don't really have to fight them. I know what I have. I know I have blue eyes. I don't really have to, it's not an issue for me, right? Because I know it, right? So that's the place I want to live my life from, is my own knowing. And that allows me to be so open to others' experiences, right? To really embrace diversity, which is sorely lacking in our culture, sorely needed in our culture. You know, a lot of, I think, what is going on with our clients individually, personally in our lives, and ourselves in our lives, is just that inner microcosm of what's out here and vice versa, right? This is a reflection of our I think, rampant traumatic disconnection from life. I think that's what I work with all the time, within myself and with everybody that I see. You know, and just to let you know, I see adults, mostly. I have some teenagers, but mostly adults. And I see women, I have women's groups, I see couples. I love doing couples work, especially with IFS. Oh my God, it's like the best. And I do, you know, I see individuals, but I use all of these modalities, whatever, you know, comes forth. But the place I come from is a real knowing that if I had the capacity to go from where I started, which was total and utter disconnection, right? I had a boat, I was in the ocean, but that was it, okay? I knew I needed to get to land, but I had no oar, I had no source, no way to do it, okay? So I started there. Another way to say it is I started in self-loathing, which was a great protector to stay safe. I started in high criticism, negation of myself, okay? And I moved to where I am today, which is in pretty good shape. Self-loving, appreciating. I'm kind of blown away by acceptance right now. I guess it could be my age and stage, 63. So I feel like, yeah, I'm coming into acceptance of my limitations and other people's limitations. Like, okay, this is it, you know, this is how it is. And you know, I'm never going to be whatever. You know, there's always going to be somebody greater than me. Absolutely. My teachers, for instance. And there'll be people not as great as me. Who cares? You know what I mean? It doesn't work on that level anymore for me. It more is like, wow, who are you? You know what I mean? Who are you? That's what more feeds me. So, and I think I learned that from IFS. So, this is one of my most favorite poems in the whole world. And this being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. That's IFS right there. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He or she may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Or, you know, meet them however you can meet them, but invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And that's definitely my experience. So, Richard Schwartz is the founder of IFS, and he says that it is the nature of the mind to be subdivided into subpersonalities and parts. And, you know, we kind of know this. This is normal, human. It's like you say, oh, I really want to climb Mount Everest, but there's a part of me that's terrified, right? We talk in the language, you know, we just say, right? So he's just acknowledging that. So as children, as we develop, our parts develop and form a complex system of interactions among themselves, right? So when the system is reorganized, parts can change rapidly. Now, this is in the, if all things being equal, if everything was wonderful, if you had a wonderful upbringing and you're allowed to develop naturally, which anybody in the room have that one? No. Okay, so, you know, mostly what happens is we have life experience and then parts develop to help us survive that, to cope, right? strategies, coping strategies, okay? Sometimes those coping strategies, like in young children, a child will go mute, okay? It could be a physical response, or they get sick. Sometimes it's an emotional response, like, I just won't feel that, right? It's not okay to feel that in my family, so I just won't feel that, right? Sometimes it's a thought, like, I'm not good enough. Clearly, because if I was good enough, I would get everything I need, right? So we take it on, right? So changes in the internal system affect changes in the external system and vice versa. And I was actually saying that. I really believe this on a big scale. I believe that we are in a big evolutionary shift and change in our world, on the planet, and we're all kind of caught in it. We're in different places of that. And I like to think of, for me, I think of, am I coming from love? Am I coming from fear? And I don't judge it, I'm just asking. I'm curious about it. Because if I'm coming from fear, then I know I can pay attention. There's something I need to do about that. Because I don't want to come from fear. I've done that most of my life. So working internally to bring connections between parts and self. And self is, in this cosmology, is what we would call the higher self or the witness, the one that has no agenda, the you of you, that when all is said and done, when all the roles are dropped, you just feel and be, right? That's the self that I'm aware of. So this brings harmony to the system when they work together. Okay, so implicit in this, and it's going to come in a second, is we're not trying to change our parts, okay? What we want to do is they need to be here. They need to be on the bus with us, okay? We need to drive the bus, but they need to be on the bus, okay? We need our parts, but we need them to be in more non-reactive positions, okay? To be able to work together. So the goal of therapy is not to eliminate the parts, but to help them find their non-extreme roles, okay? So you know what this means. It's like, oh, my husband comes home and says something to me and I get really reactive, because I misunderstand or I feel hurt or whatever, right? So I've got a protection up, right? And that protection fights, yells, mopes, whatever it does, okay? But what if I could be more curious about what he said? What if I could query it? Did you just mean to attack me? Is that really what was going on for you? Then my parts can relax, right? Or I can help them relax because I'm coming from a different place. So the non-extreme intention of each part always has something positive. So even though most of us have parts we don't like, right? We don't like parts of ourselves, right? Name a few, right? The lazy part, right? The one that doesn't want to get anything done when you know you have to get something done, right? Who likes that part? Anybody? No. Okay. The judge. Yeah, don't we just love our judges? Thank you so much for knocking me up, telling me, oh, we even have a real judge here today, an ex-judge. Yeah, who's like telling me I'm good or bad or don't do this or do that, right? It's not the most pleasant inner voice that we want to hear, right? So there really are no bad parts. There are parts that are in extreme roles because they're trying to protect us, but they're not bad. Except the judge in us that judges them is bad. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So everyone has a self, and the self can and will lead the whole internal system if we connect to it. And the goal of life, I think, and IFS therapy is to bring self-energy to the rest of the system and all the parts. So these are the goals, some of them, to achieve balance and harmony within the internal system. If you sign your name on this little thing, I will send you this PowerPoint, okay? To differentiate and elevate the self so that it can be an effective leader. Okay, so what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? So I'm coming here today and I'm driving in the car and I start noticing that I've got this like weird pain going on right here, right? This kind of like tension. So I just say to myself, who's living in my back? And what do you need? because I know we're going to do this presentation, and there's some people that are scared, right? Okay. And you're scared of what? Of being seen, maybe, or of making a mistake, or doing something wrong, or not being liked, or, all the usual stuff, right? That these parts of mine have. So instead of like saying to myself, which would be an old critic, would say, oh, get over yourself, right? Or, what? Yeah, I'm going to suffer. I'll just suffer through it. Yeah, that's a really good one. Instead, what I did was I just started having this little inner chat with myself, like, well, it makes sense to me that you'd be a little nervous because we're going out here and we're going to talk about ourselves, and, that makes sense. Immediately it calmed down. Immediately. It was like, oh, you get it. You get why I'm here. It's like the body and the mind shows up to get our attention, to say, ooh, pay attention to me, right? And when you do pay attention, it doesn't need to hold the sensation anymore in the body. And I know someone here is interested in chronic pain. I mean, when I came out of numbness on my healing journey, I dropped right into chronic pain. And for me, it was a real journey of imaging that pain over and over and over again, and working with the pain and talking to the pain and finding out and having to differentiate what was my body and what was the pain. And in the end, I don't have chronic pain anymore. But what I do have is when I get too stressed out or I get activated in some way, boom, there it is. And it's going, something's not in balance. Remember me? And that's really, for me, how I relate to the parts of myself. They are my helpers. Not all of them yet, but a lot of them, right? So the differentiation is important, to be able to realize that this is a part, this isn't me. And it's really important in my relationship, right? Oh, that's a part of you I'm not so happy with. It's not a blanket condemnation. It's like, oh yeah, there's a part of me that doesn't like that part of you. Okay, we can work with that, right? Okay, so when the self is in the lead, the parts provide input to the self, just like I shared with you. And they respect the leadership and the ultimate decision, right? So like on the way over, I offered, I live in the imaginal realm, I admit it. So I offered, do you want to go to do you want to go to the child sanctuary? Do you want to get loved up by somebody? You don't have to come today. You don't have to come to this event. This is a grown-up event. You don't need to show up, I want my playful part here. That's okay, but, you don't need to be here. It's really fine. It's like I'm helping. I'm helping. So all parts will exist and lend talents that reflect their non-extreme intentions. So can you imagine if you have access to your young parts that are full of energy? I don't know about you, but I'm not so energetic like I was when I was 30, okay? But I really love having that playful part of me show up that's non-extreme anymore, that's not, hurting, but that is available. Okay, so who's driving your bus? Often this is the case, especially if we have attachment issues, if we've been hurt as a child. That one leads everything. Will you love me? Are you safe? Can I belong here? Right? It drives the bus. The problem with that is that it can't reach the pedals. It can't really see. It's a very dangerous situation to put this bus in, to be led by a baby. And they're all freaking out. Yeah. Okay. So these are the strengths of this model, is that it focuses on your strengths, right? That undamaged core. So another way that I learned to differentiate is that I know I'm in a part if there's an agenda, right? So if I hear myself saying, there's a reason for this. And as therapists, this is really the most important thing. If you sit in the room, like I do with clients, right? And, we have really great self-like parts. If we've been doing this for a long time, we have like high, efficient, wonderful parts with all this information, and they know what this person needs, right? It's an agenda, okay? I'm not really sitting in self. I'm not really allowing the spaciousness in the field for this person's energy to come up, right? To be present, whatever it needs to be. I've got the agenda, right? So I'm in a self-like part. And spiritual parts are like that too. I have really well-defined spiritual parts.